Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Basement Boys podcast. I am coming at you live once again from the basement. Devin is coming to you live this time from Dana White's Secret Fight Island.
It's a secret.
Yeah, episode 2, doing it again, socially distant, again, making it way harder on me, and I hate it. So, we were talking about the private UFC island, so let's jump into it with that. UFC back next weekend. Big fight card, great fight card. Just lost Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade, and that kind of sucks. But I mean, Ferguson Gaethje is still going to be absolutely incredible. So I don't even really overly care. But yeah, that whole card's great. You got Ferguson Gaethje, you got Rosenstruik and Ngannou. You have, hold on, let me pull that up real quick. But Ferguson Gaethje, as much as I'm super upset about the loss of the Khabib fight, you don't realize how much you need a fight until it's in front of you sometimes. And this is going to be fireworks. Any fight with Justin Gaethje is fireworks. Any fight with Tony Ferguson is fireworks. And I just don't see them having that cancel out style, because there's a bunch of other fights we would have thought would have been incredible fights, but then they turn out to not be so much because the styles just kind of cancel each other out, or the things the fighters are going through at the time. Like Ngannou, what the hell is his name? My balls are hot. Tarek Lewis. That was supposed to be a great fight. Was not a good fight at all. I think 6 punches were thrown in that entire fight, and it's just what they were going through at the time. Francis coming off the loss of Stipe and stuff like that. But yeah, the fight's great. The fight card's great. Gonna go down the line a little bit. First fight of the night, Scott Sam Alvey in it. Means I want to watch it. I don't know Span as well as I know Alvey, but any fight with Smiling Sam with that big old smiley face cut into the side of his head, I'm stoked. I'm just there for it. I'm happy for it. I'm always gonna watch it. Next one, Sijara Eubanks came into the UFC pretty hard, if I remember correctly. Came in a couple losses. She's been putting it together a little more recent, I believe. I'm not super familiar with her, but I've seen her from The Ultimate Fighter and stuff like that. I'll be honest, I don't really know who she's fighting next. I'm happy to see Ray Borg's going to be back in there. Ray Borg, if you don't know, his son, I believe it was some type of brain disease. I forget exactly which disease it was at the moment, but they were going through all that. And just to have him back, and it seems like things are going well with his son, it's just good to see him fight, and I'm really pulling for him. Uriah Hall versus Jacare Souza. Super great fight. Uriah Hall, where he's had some losses, and hasn't really lived up to the potential you thought from The Ultimate Fighter. He is always exciting to watch. He can always pull something out of nowhere. And he's always still really sorry to Adam. And then Jacare is just Jacare. You know what you're going to get with that fight. He's a technical wizard who can box the absolute shit out of you and is a fucking nightmare on the ground with his jiu-jitsu. Ngannou Rosenstruik, who is the hardest hitting person in the UFC. We're going to find out. Or I guess who can land the shot first, because both of these guys are fucking knockout monsters. It's scary how hard they hit. Like the heavyweight division, any punch can be a knockout, but with these guys, they could fucking blow on you too hard, and you're going unconscious. So that one's gonna have to. Someone's gonna get knocked out, even if they only throw 6 punches in that whole fight. That 6 punches will be enough to get one of those motherfuckers knocked out.
Someone's going down to the canvas, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we know that I'm not a UFC guy. But is this the first time these two are meeting?
Oh yeah. Rosenstruck has just shot up the line the same way Francis did when he was first on the come up before he ran into Stipe. They're both just crazy destructive. They have crazy destructive power. Like what Francis did to Overeem. What fucking Rosenstruck did to Overeem. I think the Francis knockout was the scariest knockout I've ever seen. I feel bad that both of these happened to Overeem. But then Rosenstruck literally took a chunk out of his lip.
Ooh.
Like there was like a triangle missing.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, it was fucking insane. So that's just there's no way that's not going to be a fun fight. Jeremy Stevens versus Calvin Kattar is going to be a great fight. Stevens, the old vet, trying to prove that he's still in the mix for a title. Again, monster power puncher, super technical, has good wrestling. Calvin Kattar, new young star, like working his way up a little more. Just a very, very dynamic guy. That one should be a great fight. I don't like that they have Greg Hardy third from the top on this card.
Really? Greg Hardy's still fighting?
Yeah, he's been putting together some wins, but just from being more athletic than everyone else.
Right.
He picked up a loss recently, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I forget. Hold on, let me see who that was too. I remember the fight, but I cannot remember who it was. But yeah, he's just way more athletic than everyone. The NFL, we haven't seen guys NFL caliber really go to the UFC because there's just so much more money to be made in the NFL.
Right.
But he kind of ended up having to go there under tricky situations.
Tricky situations.
Yeah, right. He's such a piece of shit. I hate that he's still doing good. I was really hoping to see him knocked out by now.
I honestly thought he was out
of
fighting.
Oh no. But he's beaten guys who I think are more technically skilled than him just by being that much more athletic than them.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just looking up his record real quick. Oh yeah, he lost to Alexander Volkov. Where again he kept up because he was so much more athletic, and I'll give it to him, can take a punch. But Alexander Volkov is just not the. I wouldn't say yet that he's proven to me that he's like the super upper echelons, like the Stipes or the DCs or the Overeems, like people who are established and know that they're always in the mix at the top. But he's been there and done that. He's a guy with real experience against real top of the food chain opponents, and honestly just kind of outclassed him.
Mm-hmm.
But Hardy's athleticism, again, I felt kept him in the fight. But yeah, that's about as much time as I want to spend on Greg Hardy. He is not a good person.
No.
Then it was supposed to be Jessica Andrade versus Rose Namajunas 2, which I'm really bummed that for whatever reason Rose can't make it. Like, I hope she's okay. I hope it's nothing bad. I hope she doesn't have the virus, anything like that. But I just really wanted to see that fight because she was doing great in the first fight, and then she just got dumped on her head and got knocked out. It's what happens. Like, wrestling happens, and sometimes you get dumped on your head. You know what I mean? But
Right.
so I was really excited for that fight. I hope they keep Andrade on the card because I do like watching her fight. Then you got Ferguson Gaethje, the fucking. I'd rather that. I'm happy they made this fight, not the Conor fight. Not that they could have gotten the Conor fight done because he's not in the U.S., but I'd rather see this fight, at least right now, because they are the two guys who are most deserving of a title shot. So if they can't get Khabib in there, it's the fight I'd want to see. And when you think about it, the styles are just picture perfect, in my opinion. Tony's that very dynamic, doing weird things, like jumping and skipping and hopping and twirling, and like you never know what Tony's gonna throw at you at any time.
Right.
He's willing to get hit. He's a nightmare off his back. Where Gaethje is a much more technical boxer in the sense of he throws things more the way they should be. Not that he's better at it technically than Ferguson, but he'll throw a 1, 2, 3 instead of just weird angles and more like that. And he's just where Tony's willing to take punishment. Gaethje taking punishment is his game plan. He's just gonna let you punch yourself out on him while walking forward, taking everything you got, and getting into rage to blast you with one.
Kind of like, almost like a rope-a-dope fight that Muhammad Ali used against George Foreman.
No, because Ali, when he went for the rope-a-dope, he would back into a corner, he'd back into the ropes, and then when they came in, he'd move and duck and dodge, and you know what I mean?
Okay.
So kind of the same general. It's different means to the same ends, I guess. So trying to get the person to punch themselves out a little more, but Gaethje literally just puts his hands up and walks directly into you, and you can do whatever you want. I mean, he's cleaned it up a little more in the past couple fights.
Yeah.
He's like tried to use his range a little more and stuff like that, but he's very much a just pressure. I'm gonna go into you whether I get hit or not type of fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And he has, even though he rarely ever uses it, he has amazing wrestling because he wrestled in college. I believe he wrestled Division 1. It might have been Division 2. But he didn't wrestle slouches. Let's put it that way. He could wrestle.
He can grapple.
Yeah, so that's going to be a great card. They're putting it on from a secret location that apparently has come out in the press to be the Tachi Palace. It's on allegedly. It's on California tribal land. It's like a casino. But from what I hear, they are going to be bringing in the California State Athletic Commission, even though they don't technically have to try to do it more on the up and up.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least they're going to be consulting. I don't know how true that is. I don't know in what capacity they can consult and what capacity the UFC is going to listen to them because they don't technically have to.
Right.
But Dana says there's going to be drug testing. There's going to be every single thing. Like, the weigh-ins are going to be the same. Everything's going to be the same, except there's just not going to be fans. Um,
Now, let me ask you silly questions. So Khabib is the current light heavyweight champion, right?
no, he's the current lightweight champion.
Oh, I'm sorry, lightweight champion.
Yes,
Now, I was reading that this fight between Ferguson and NG, am I saying it right?
Ferguson and Gaethje.
NG, KG, I'm sorry. Whoever wins, it'll be like the interim champion or something like that.
Yes.
Is like in the sense that like if Khabib was to fight, I'm assuming that would have been for his belt, right?
Yes.
So in theory, the winner of this match would go on to fight Khabib, and maybe we get a unification match.
Yes, that's generally how the plan works. For some reason, it
Oh.
seldom operates that way. Because a lot of people like to. I've noticed a lot of people recently, because they've been giving out more interim belts,
Mm-hmm.
where even when they started giving out more interim belts, the guy would get the interim belt, the guy would come back, they'd fight, blah, 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 blah. But it was getting to the point where I feel like all the interim people were trying to ask for more money, since they were just like, you have to make him fight me. You have to make him fight me. And then eventually they'd get hurt or something would happen, and so the UFC would use that as an excuse to strip them.
Okay.
But so I don't know. I know Ferguson wants a Khabib fight. Dana said he's gonna try to do it again for later in the year, after Ramadan, because Khabib won't fight in Ramadan because he's Muslim. And it just the timing of everything just messes with his training schedule, so it's not a good idea for him to
I mean, it's
fight
very hard to be a professional athlete and also partake in Ramadan.
and not eat whenever the sun's up all day or any day. Yeah. I think it's from sun up to sundown, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're correct.
There are some guys who do it by training at night, but I also understand the decision to not, so it is what it is. And so that won't happen until after then, so we're looking at the fall, because the UFC has said they're going to, after this, they're starting up fights every week. They have this location, and they're secure. They are either in the process or very recently secured a private island somewhere out in the world that they won't release the information, and I have not seen anything on that one yet. And that'll be where they house the international fighters when they want to fight. The thing I'm curious about with that actually is I wonder if they're gonna do it on like the same night. Like if they could logistically do that, like they could put, say, say Robert Whitaker and Israel Adesanya, just two people outside of the United States. They could put them on the same card as, like, I know they're talking about Cejudo and Dominic Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
By just like switching the feeds back to each place. I wonder what the logistics of that would be, and if that would be something they're interested in. Because I think that would be a really cool idea.
I mean, it is money, and we have technology, and yeah, why not do that if you could? Like, dude, you just be smart. Probably right. They probably are in some secret facility or staying at, currently trying to figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah, and I think it's a smart idea also that they got the private island, because I think Dana even said it himself. You can't just burn out all the American fighters and ruin next year's schedule. And it would just completely ruin matchups and stuff like that. So at least they can try to keep the matchups within the same range. They just have to keep them separated by country right now, or at least in the United States or outside of the United States. I'm also just conflicted on this whole thing as a whole, because part of me just as a fight fan, is just super excited to see a fight. Super excited to see a fight I want to see. And I respect the idea of, hey, people need some sort of entertainment. If we can do this in a safe way, if the testing's good enough, blah, blah, blah. But like I agree that it's not a bad idea to have these types of things. But also at the same time, I do agree that it's kind of a bad idea just because that's a lot of moving parts. I don't know how many people are going to have in there. Like, I don't know if it's smart for the whole flattening of the curve idea. But if they keep the group small, if they can get adequate testing, but see, that's the thing. There has to be adequate testing because we don't need to be sending hundreds of tests to the UFC if people with symptoms are not getting tested because there are not enough tests.
Right. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. Like, yeah, it'd be great to see some fights going on and just to have a little bit of entertainment and, in a way, get us back to normalcy a little bit. But at the same time, we would rather not compromise, millions of people out there that like could use these tests, or not millions, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get you. That kind of leads me into the same idea with the story that broke on, at the very least, one of the plans they're looking at to restart Major League Baseball. The idea that they're going to basically just build a small city in Arizona, keep all the teams there, and all the coaches and stuff. They'd have to be away from their families. Make sure everyone is tested and play the game that way to no fans. Which, again, if there is enough testing, I think is a great idea. But hopefully by May, the manufacturing plans that we have working now to make more of these tests and to make more of the PPE and to make more of the everything that we need to make will, by that time, make it so everyone can be tested. Great. So if you want to use as many tests, as long as everyone can be tested whenever they feel like being tested for it, if you want to fucking eat those things like they're Skittles. I don't give a fuck. But there just needs to be adequate supply.
Right. I mean, we don't want to change the average man and woman out there, just for entertainment purposes. We gotta, we just gotta be smart about this and remember that, like, hey, Joe Schmo down the street might be symptomatic, but if we can't get him tested, then there's no reason why like we should Major League Baseball or NFL or Masters or whatever it may be should be putting on a product.
And they definitely shouldn't have priority over just everyday people, especially people with no symptoms.
Right.
But the logistics of that is crazy to me because they literally have to have a city inside a city that no one can really leave from. They'd have to make sure their food comes in from anything like that comes in from a secure place. They can't have their families there. That's just way too many people.
Oh, yeah.
And they basically have to keep self-contained and be tested constantly to make that work. And I know a lot of people have come out in support of the idea, come out and not support, and they dislike the idea. But I don't see that everyone's making out the people who want to see it happen are making out oh, it's such a great idea, easy, they could definitely do that. There's so much more to that. A guy could sneak out because he's getting stir crazy and he wants to see other people. You don't know.
Well, let's not even talk about that guy. Let's talk about the veterans who have families, and are like, hey, I don't want to be away from my family for 4.5 months, 5 months, whatever it may be. Like, as much as I love to play the game, I still want to see my family, you know, every couple of nights when I can. And I don't want to have to be sitting around in the city with other guys in the same boat, just like video chatting. Because like we're like, hey, miss my fam, miss my wife, miss my kids, you know.
Yeah, like that's just you can't. I don't see how they can make, especially a lot of the veteran players. Like I think you'll see if there are people who are thinking like, this will probably be my last year before coming into the season. If something like that happened, they'd probably just retire. Like
Yeah.
you'd probably see the retire rate skyrocket at that point.
Oh yeah.
And there'd probably be guys that just retired for the year or something, so this all blew over, and then came back next year because they just didn't want to deal with all that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I mean, also, I was gonna say you gotta give something. You can't have the players just all right, go play baseball, now go home to these, little pop-up cities that we're gonna make for you. Like, you gotta give them a way to burn off that like steam, if you will, of like, hey, I just went to work, I just played some baseball, which is cool, but now I want to unwind. Whether it be like go to the bar so that they can go out for a drink, or like bowling alleys or whatever. I'm just shooting ideas off the top of my head, but you need something that can take their mind away from their job, essentially.
And not to mention that, like, you see pitchers and batters get into beefs all the time. What are you going to do if you're in this little city, confined to this little space, and you have to see these people and deal with these people regularly?
Yeah. Someone's going to get knocked out.
Like, there's definitely going to cause some tension. It's definitely not going to be good.
Dana White might be trying to scout talent if that happens.
Ugh. Yeah, I don't think so. But, I've seen plenty of MLB fight where I'm just like, oh, this is the first time you've ever thrown a punch. I get it. All right. Next, I think we should talk about best commissioner in the world, Adam Silver. Great guy, great ideas. I'm gonna pass the lead off to Devin here because he knows a shit ton more about basketball than I do.
I don't want to say that, but maybe a lot, but whatever. Anyway, so Adam Silver is out here trying to just come up with an idea that we can get people to watching the game and get the game going again. Whether it be, having like a secure location and maybe like getting like whoever's corona free there and just playing like expedition games, kind of like a Harlem at the Rucker. Rucker at the Harlem, like Adams.
You got it.
Anyway, this old school classic playground rules where you show up and you know what? They might just be like, all right, guys, this is captain, that's a captain. We'll pick teams and go. And like whoever can make it, awesome. And that way we at least get a product and a little bit more entertainment. And then, as we said before, kind of bring us back to normalcy.
Yeah, and even if it wasn't like straight pickup ball, even though that would be so much fun to watch, even if it was like an actual game with just like an all-star game, with these guys just going head to head against each other and like doing whatever and just having fun, I still think it'd be more fun to watch because I feel like they'd get, if you were going in a string of games against other top talent, not just the All-Star game, which doesn't really mean anything, but if you were just like playing a bunch of separate games against your guys, I feel like guys would get competitive about it. I feel like LeBron would be like, well, every team I was on won, so, and you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it'd be more fun than the All-Star game, even though I'd still pay just to see that, just to see who wins that day. Gives the gambler something to gamble on. You could pick Team A, Team B, like something like that.
But speaking of entertainment and basketball, I did find out that a bunch of players from the WNBA and NBA are getting together and doing a virtual horse competition.
I did see that. That's crazy.
It's going to be headlined by Chris Paul, Trae Young, and Hall of Famer Tamika Catchings of the WNBA. I believe there's 8 players. They're going to be matched up, and they're doing this from their homes and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like the guy players are going to do them so dirty and just dunk on it, the girls.
So it's funny you mentioned that because Zach LaVine, 2-time slam dunk winner, he's in the contest. Trae Young tweeted at him, being like, "Hey man, no dunking." To which Zach LaVine just laughs, and we'll see if he has a special dunk he's been saving for this one particular moment.
I feel like that'd be fun to watch. Anything would be fun to watch at this point.
It would, but I mean, I want to see some trick shots. I want to see someone pull crazy 360 off the backboard, tomahawk reverse slam or something like that. I just
yeah.
a bunch of words together.
I just want to see Steph drain a full court shot. Steph in it?
Dude, that's not even horse for him. That's just warm-ups.
Yeah, right? Like, fuck you. All right, so yeah. Adam Silver's just great. He's finding a way to at least bring more of a condensed product. Again, I like the way they're at least thinking about it, in the fact of we don't need to bring everyone, even though their teams are the smallest teams of any league.
Right.
Like MLB's talking.
I think they want to expand it to the minor league roster as well. So you're looking at potentially like dudes on the bench.
Yeah, like it. And you're looking on a major league roster at any point, at the very minimum, like 13, 14 guys, I'd say. I don't know that number off the top of my head.
Something like that. I think in the playoffs, it's 20-something.
Yeah. And then by just bringing in like certain stars who can come in, it just keeps the numbers lower. It makes it a much less of a logistical problem, I feel like. So I think if you're going to go about it, it's the best way to do it. I do think all of these companies, if they are going to do it, whether or not you'd say it's smart to or not, if they are going to do it, they are at the very least being proactive in their thinking and doing things the best way I feel they possibly could go about it.
Right.
Now, Dev, if you wouldn't mind taking us, we have a few new Hall of Fame inductees since we're talking basketball.
Yeah, give me 1 sec. Should have prepared better.
Look at this guy.
I know.
I'm shaming him even though I did the exact same thing earlier in this very episode.
Let's be real. Going into this year's 2020 Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts, you got the legend, man who has 2 numbers retired by one team. The late, the great Kobe Bryant.
Rest in peace, Kobe. We love you.
It's Kobe. What more can we say? Like Mamba forever. Joining him, you got the man, came right out of high school. Might have started that trend. Started out playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Then won a championship in Boston. Finished out the career at Brooklyn Nets. Number 21, Kevin KG Garnett.
I wasn't booing KG, I was booing the Celtics. Sorry.
Yeah. Fuck the Celtics.
If you're
I'm a Knicks fan.
in case you're wondering on our view of the Celtics, fuck the Celtics.
And then, can't forget, the great number 21. Played his whole career with San Antonio. Now is assistant coach on that bench. Also, letting the hair grow out into some dreads or something like that. Tim Duncan. Sorry, had to get back to the video. There we go.
Yeah, but so obviously most well-deserved Hall of Fame class I can think of. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's other people who are just as well deserving, but this is definitely right up on par with them at the very least.
Right. I mean, between the three of them, they've had, I believe, 45 all-star selections between all three of them guys.
That's an insane number.
I mean, Kobe, 5-time champion. Tim Duncan, I believe, 5-time champion as well. KG, 1-time champion. Like, yo, those three just ooze Hall of Fame credentials. I mean, and on top of that, you can look at their influence in the game and how many players and how many kids growing up would be like, yo, watch this. Kobe, just taking a piece of paper, throwing in the trash. Kobe. I know when I play ball, I was like, yo, I want to be like KG and Tim Duncan and stuff.
Yeah, and people who had never seen a game of basketball in their life, people who did not know who Kobe Bryant was, even they were shooting the Kobe shot. Like, Kobe had such just a far-reaching just persona. Just everything about him. He won an Oscar. He was one of the greatest basketball players of all time. And even the people who want to say, you know, he was accused of sexual assault and all that type of stuff, at the very least with Kobe, I feel like personally, not that you should ever excuse what he's done. It was something that, again, if happened as alleged, I don't know the facts. I'm not the lawyer. I'm not excusing the fact that these things happened, but at the very least, he is a model for the person you would want someone to become.
Right.
After allegations like this. He cleaned up his act. He did not put himself in situations like this. He became a dad to 3 beautiful daughters, I believe.
I think.
I believe. To multiple daughters. Was a great dad. Really tried to help and inspire them to be anything they wanted to be. And someone who took, at the very least, the allegations very seriously and made the correct changes in his life.
Right.
And I think things like that should be celebrated a little more when you can see people truly and honestly making the changes to make themselves a better person.
Yeah. Agreed. And I mean, you look at, like, after that incident, like, I believe he didn't come out and say that he was there, but he did issue an apology right away, you know, and it wasn't done. It wasn't forced by the Lakers organization. It wasn't like coming down from his agent and being like, yo, you need to apologize. He came out and was just like, hey, I'm sorry this happened. I was like, should never have put myself in that position. And you know, from that moment on, he was like, kind of came out, like you said, it was like, hey, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna be a better person. I'm gonna make sure I'm making the right choices for me and my family and my kids.
Like, you see people who you're just like, you need to just be better.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown, for instance, Aaron Hernandez. Just people who, like, you need to know better than that. You need to be better than that. John Jones. And then you see the people who don't correct those mistakes, the John Joneses, the ABs. And then there's people like Kobe, when you tell him, hey, be better, he said, you know what? I'm going to be better.
Yeah.
And he proved it. At the very, very least. Again, I would never excuse this woman's experience. I would never tell her she's wrong. I'm not saying he should be forgiven. I'm not saying he, at the very least, by her. You know what I mean? I'm not saying she should be happy that he's getting all these accolades right now. Like, I'm not saying any of those things. I'm just saying he is, at the very least, the model for I say I'm going to be better. I'm saying I'm going to fix these things that are wrong with me, and he does it.
Right.
So, yeah, shout to Kobe, shout to Garnett, shout to, um,
Tim Duncan.
yeah. I was thinking Tim Howard in my head. I don't know why. But I knew it wasn't right.
I'm sure Tim Howard will get his dues at some point, just not right now.
Right. All right. The only real big NFL free agency news that I saw was the Sammy Watkins resigning with the Kansas City Chiefs, restructuring his deal, making it a little more team friendly, able to handle the Mahomes contract a little better, trying to keep the boys together and all that fun stuff. I really believe in the idea of, while you're in the league for a short time, and you will never hear me being one of those guys who is mad that someone got their money. Like, unless like the Jets paid like Geno Smith $40 million a year, like, I'm not gonna be that guy. I just won't do it.
Right.
But like, I'm just happy for them to get it in while they can. But at the same time, if it really goes to show, like, it's why Tom Brady did it for so many years. If you want championships, if you want the accolades and everything that comes with all that, there are sacrifices you can make to make your chances higher. Right. And I think that's what Sammy Watkins did.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, you look at Sammy's career, like, he was highly touted coming out of college, and he gets to Buffalo. He starts off on fire, and unfortunately, injuries just happen. Right. And no matter how hard he tries, he's got the talent. He gives you potential and little flashes here and there, and an injury. He comes back. You think he's better. You think he's healthier. Oh, man, it's looking good. Another injury. And for this dude to go out to Kansas City, and when he had the opportunity, he balled out. When Tyreek Hill was going through his issues and away from the team, he stepped up and he was like, yo, I got you. I think he had one game, 2 or 3 touchdowns and ungodly amount of yardage, and helped them win the Super Bowl. And now he's going back and he's like, hey, KC, I appreciate everything you did. I'm willing to take a little bit of a pay cut if it means, we can keep this team together and keep it going.
And I think I said it last week. That team, especially with this re-signing now, you're going to have to see Mahomes. If you want anywhere near that Super Bowl next year, you're going to have to see Mahomes at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I really unless someone in that lineup, unless honestly Mahomes in that lineup really just falls off next year, like off a cliff, I really just don't see how they could not, at the very least, maybe not make it back to the Super Bowl, but at least to like a conference championship. Like,
Yeah. And let's be real, they're going to be a top seed for sure. And you better hope that you have a better seeding than them, because you do not want to travel to Arrowhead in the playoffs. Because them fans, they get rowdy over there. Not as rowdy as Buffalo, but they're right up there.
they do not dive through tables and eat horse shit, but they they are definitely wild. um, yeah, and especially now with the Patriots not being the Patriots in the AFC, like who's gonna stop them? Really?
I mean, you might have the Ravens.
Yeah,
They have Lamar Jackson, who was just a bag full of tricks at every play.
for some reason I always think the Ravens are an NFC team. I
They-
don't know why. I really don't.
don't forget, they also have 3 Heisman winning players on their team.
Yeah, right. When that lineup, like they have a formation where all three of them line up together. Like that's just crazy to see.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wonder, as a defense, like, what are you thinking when you look up and you see, yo, Heisman, Heisman. Whoa, 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 whoa. What's going on here?
Well, I don't think they're as super intimidated by RG3. Even though he's been playing very well.
He
He's been
is.
he's been doing the damn thing in the limited role he has.
He he's like, yo, this is my job. I'm gonna ball out when I get it.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, I'm playing professional football. I get in the game, which is more than other backups.
You're
So
right.
might as well take it for what it's worth.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, again, only real big free agency news. The only other NFL news is New Orleans might be losing the 2024 Super Bowl at their stadium with the new 17 game season that they're working towards and the new playoff system they're supposedly going to be implementing in this season,
Mm-hmm.
if this season even happens.
True.
Yeah, so they obviously extra week of playoffs, extra week of games. It's going to push everything back quite a bit, and I guess they're concerned that that is going to cross over into Mardi Gras.
And no
Which,
city is ready for that.
yeah, they cannot. They are not built to do Mardi Gras. No one's built to do Mardi Gras and the Super Bowl, which is just its own kind of giant event.
Right.
Like it's not just the game; it's people outside the game. It's fan experiences. It's people flying in from all over the world and checking out restaurants and resorts and anything you can think of. And like and that's the same thing Mardi Gras is.
Oh yeah. I mean, Mardi Gras is a week-long party. Super Bowl is a week-long party. You telling me that the normal people are going to be able to do 2 weeks of hardcore partying? I'm sorry. Unless your name is Gronk, you're not making it out of there alive.
Speaking of Gronk, he is the new 24/7 WWE Championship, baby. As much as I hate the Patriots, I just can't hate Gronk. He's just such a funny, like whenever he's on something, it's just hysterical, and he doesn't take himself that seriously, and just like fucks around, and I love it.
Gronk doesn't care. Gronk is all about having a good time and doing what he loves. And, football ran his course. He made his money, won some championships, got some endorsement deals, and now he's hanging out with his best friend in the WWE and is now the new 24/7 champion.
And that's the other thing about Gronk. He's one of those guys when you say he's just looking for a good time, that's exactly it. A lot of people who don't give a fuck also don't give a fuck about your feelings and like things like that. Like he's not trying to ruin anyone's day, try to make anyone have a bad time. All he cares about is that, hey, I'm having a good time, you're having a good time, it's a good time.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like you just can't hate Gronk at the
No.
very least. But yeah, so New Orleans might lose the Super Bowl. They're talking about they might potentially have them trade the year. They might have them like give them kind of like a fast lane to the next available Super Bowl.
Well, I think there's nothing planned after 2024. So in theory, they could host it in 2025.
If the timings worked out again, because they just have to see when
Right.
and where the season would work around. And I feel like if they had like a year or two to work it around them having it, you know what I mean? They could make where I don't think they're gonna move the entire season for New Orleans to have the Super Bowl. Like
Right.
they're not that interested in being fair. But if it's something like, oh, start the Super Bowl, I mean, if it's something like, I don't know, just the logistics of everything, 2026 was going to it was going to start a little earlier. They'd push them. They can push them into that slot. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Um, that kind of sucks for them because that is big tourist money for any city. And
But Orleans,
obviously, you're not rescheduling Mardi Gras. Like Mardi Gras is an institution.
right. I was going to say, New Orleans pulls money for Mardi Gras, LSU. Like, yeah, they might be a little hurting, but they'll be okay.
Yeah. Plus, like I've been to New Orleans once when I was a child, but every day outside our hotel, they were having like little Mardi Gras parties just because so much of their economy is based on Mardi Gras and things in that type of sphere. You know what I mean?
I mean, you go down there, you go down to Bourbon Street, get yourself a couple hand grenades, have a good time, hopefully stay out of jail, and wake up and do it again the next day.
Yeah, it was a very fun place. I mean, I was a kid. I couldn't go and have that much fun, but you know
Right.
how it is. Yeah, so that's pretty much all we got for you this week. Um, yeah. Again, it's another Corona week. Not much is going on, but it seems to be the point where all the leagues and all the businesses and everything throughout the country are starting to really get their contingency plans more in a row.
Right.
So I think that's a good news for, at the very least, the continuation of just somewhat of normalcy once the testing becomes more available, once the vaccines come out. At least we can start having ideas of these plans. Like, look, if we got to be in this for a year, at least we know. You know what I
Right.
mean? They don't need to be every 2 months being like, oh, maybe this 2 months.
Right.
Um, I'd rather just know. Where I obviously don't expect it to be a full year, at the very
Right.
least for no fans at the
Right.
stadium. Like just put it on some type of product. I fully don't expect it to be a year. I would just rather. I'm waiting for these contingencies to come out,
Right.
and it's looking like we're gonna get to that point soon.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's all we got for today. Once again, I am Chris Gray. That is Devin Mitchell.
Week 2's in the books.
What?
Week 2 is in the books.
Oh, I thought you said we twos in the books, and I was just like, what the fuck does that mean?
Not becoming a Bucks fan, like, Giants all day. Big Blue, wrecking crew.
Even though they got Tom Brady, fuck Tampa Bay. No, I'm kidding. All right. Anyway, that's it for us, guys. Hope you enjoyed the conversation today. Once again, we did not come up with a goddamn catchphrase.
One day we'll.
Maybe we just make that our catchphrase, not having a catchphrase. We'll figure it out. Anyway, yeah, week 2, as Devin said, week 2's in the books. So, see ya.
Later.